Welcome back to Let's Talk Adoption with Kim and Heather. And today we're diving into something we don't talk about nearly enough: birth fathers. We hear so many stories from birth moms, but birth fathers have their own journey full of surprises, emotions, and a lot of wait, what moments.
And I think it's good to start probably with where it often begins for men, that first shocking moment of finding out, often unexpectedly, that you're going to be a dad, or maybe that you're going to be a dad again.
Mm. And for some guys, it's instant panic, fight or flight. For others,
Hmm.
it's confusion, guilt, or even disbelief. And one birth father said, I didn't know what to feel. I was scared, but I also knew I cared.
And that's totally normal. The emotions, even if they are scared, excited,
Shocked.
shocked, in disbelief, those emotions don't, they don't make you a bad person. They make you human. They are the normal emotions that I think all of us have when we're in a situation that is not even shocking. I think surprising might be a better word. Something we weren't expecting. We kind
Mm.
of flash through a lot of emotions before we can kind of land with, okay, how do I really feel?
Right. Unexpected change in and
Hmm.
of itself, it's going to take you completely off guard, right?
Hmm.
And so, but then when it comes to these moments, sometimes there's another surprise: finding out that adoption is being considered.
And that's what we hear all the time from guys in this situation. Wait, what? Adoption for my baby?
Right. And that is something that in that moment, a million thoughts could go through a man's mind, a young man's mind, or,
Hmm.
a man that's even in their 20s, 30s, and beyond.
Hmm.
It's a change that is happening and it is inevitable that a decision has to be made. She is pregnant, and you're learning she is considering adoption. And one thing that surprises a lot of people too, that we want to make sure people are aware of, and this is a big wait what moment that we experience, is in many states, a birth father can actually sign his consent to the adoption before the baby is born.
Wait, what?
I know exactly, exactly. And Heather, just such great acting in that moment. That's what's making, for the record, that's what I'm laughing about. It's no laughing matter, certainly, that, but this is why we're doing this podcast. This is
Hmm.
the whole reason Let's Talk Adoption exists, to talk about these things and
Hmm.
to have these honest conversations. And a lot of people assume that nothing can happen until after the birth, but that's not true everywhere. It's one reason we always encourage birth fathers to reach out early, get involved in the adoption planning so they understand their rights and how the process works in their state.
And, I think it's good to remember that getting involved early, it helps you feel confident, helps you feel informed. And as a father, it also protects your rights. And we're going to talk a little more about your rights in adoption and really why it's so important that if you're in this situation, that you do take an active role if you can.
Mhm. And sometimes when men share about the fact that there's an adoption plan going on with the girl or young woman that they were with, their support network around them may start to tell them, well, these are the laws, or these are
Hmm.
the next steps, or the
Hmm.
do's and don'ts. But adoption law is always changing, and adoption law is different in every state and sometimes even county.
Hmm.
So it's
Hmm.
important to be aware that even if your support network around you is telling you you have XYZ right, or this is your next step, be sure to speak with an adoption agency or an attorney that can set you straight on what the laws actually are that apply to your specific scenario in your location at this specific time. Because, and also the dynamics of the timing. Is this a child that's already born that's being placed? Maybe the child's a little bit older, or is this a woman that's pregnant and you just found out, or was the baby just born and she's been given 30 days before the adoption is before her rights are relinquished and the
Mhm.
rights are terminated and she's choosing adoption. And so she's fine with that and understands she has 30 days, but what are your rights? So
Right.
it's really important to get clear understanding from people who are qualified to give you that information so that you don't end up being confused and overwhelmed with conflicting information that well-meaning people are giving you.
Mhm. And I think it's good to kind of stay on that emotional aspect because after that initial shock, and then when you find out adoption may be being considered, the emotions start coming in a little harder. It can be some guilt, anger, shame, sadness, even you may feel a hit to your pride.
Mm, right. And a lot of men don't kind of give themselves permission. They feel like maybe they're not allowed to process those emotions. But that's actually where healing begins, when you actually face what's happening inside, really
Mhm.
acknowledge those feelings and try to put maybe a label on them. I feel guilty
Definitely.
about even being in this situation. I feel anger that my life is going in a direction I never wanted. I feel anger even at the birth mom, the woman who's, carrying my child. I feel anger that she's even considering adoption. You know, I, I feel shame that I am expecting a baby with a woman that I'm not married to. Or I feel shame that I'm expecting a baby and I'm not in a position to provide for that child. I feel sadness because I am and walking through an adoption plan and I'm going to miss out on being the dad I always intended to be to a
Mhm.
child. Maybe I
Mhm.
promised myself I would never repeat the father son role that I experienced as a child. I promised myself when I'm a dad one day I'll do it differently. And now it feels like I'm breaking my promise to myself and letting everyone down, including myself.
Mhm. And those are all normal. And what Kim you so beautifully shared was really common. And what was missing from that is thinking about the child. What is best for the child in this whole giant scenario? And
Hmm.
often we don't get there until we are able to process some of those feelings initially. And there's a lot of healthy ways to process. I love what you said about putting labels on them. Definitely, that is a way to start taming some of the feelings and thoughts we have. Talking to a counselor um, can really help find clarity. And maybe, I'm going to be honest here, most men probably haven't been to a counselor before, but it can be talking to someone in your life who has some wisdom, maybe has a little more experience. Although sometimes it's hard to even find those conversations, find the words. Writing things down can help. Um, if you have some opportunity for a support group. But the reality of it is sometimes it is just finding a person who will listen without judging. And it can be, if you are able to be in touch with the adoption agency, they can help. They can help talk through it. They can also help connect you with an independent counselor, or they should connect you at no cost for an independent counselor to try to process these feelings and help you get to the point where you can see the situation a little bit differently.
Hmm. And when, it comes to acknowledging these feelings, just remember, and this is a wait what moment, that feeling these feelings doesn't make you weak. It doesn't mean you're any less of a man. Every man has a battle going on inside of himself the second he wakes up and the second he walks out the door into the world. And feeling these feelings means you care deeply about doing what's best. Feeling these feelings, that's all totally normal. It's just that men don't often talk about these things with each other. So you might feel kind of isolated and alone or different, but you're not. These are all
Mm-hmm.
totally normal, especially as an initial reaction before you go to that next level that Heather shared, Now, okay, I've gotten over my own shock and how this isn't going the way I thought it was going to go in my life. That, maybe I thought one day when I find out I'm going to be a dad, it's going to be, with the wife that I married 2 years
Mm-hmm.
ago, and that we bought a house and then we waited a couple years to enjoy our marriage, and then we decided let's have a baby.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe, like Heather mentioned earlier, you have a child already and you realize how challenging it is getting schedules together with the mom and the financial aspect of it, child support, and, trying to feel like you're in the loop on what's going on with the child, but you never really are because, maybe the mom is taking over all the school interaction and making all the doctor's appointments, and you just really feel like you're outside the loop, and you're like, next time I'm going to do it differently. And then here is next time. And it's with a woman who wants to choose adoption, not because she's you know, doesn't love the child, but because she wants a better life for the child than what
Mm-hmm.
she feels she can provide. And it's okay to agree with that. Hey, we're not in the best position to provide the life that we want a child to have.
Mm-hmm. And let's be honest here. This can also feel like rejection.
Mm,
This can also feel like, you know, uh, the mother of your baby is not just rejecting the child, which she is not. Adoption's a decision made out of love, but it can feel like she's rejecting you. Um, that's a normal feeling. Some men interpret it as woman doesn't think that, you're going to be a good dad or doesn't think that you can provide enough.
mm.
And those feelings are normal. But
And
again, adoption decisions are primarily made because both parents have looked at the scenario and realize that they both want more for the child than they, whether they're together or not, than they can provide right now.
there can also be some feelings of denial too to get through.
Definitely.
That sometimes the wait what moment that first needs to be overcome is that's not my baby.
Hmm. Right.
Oh, well, she's legally married or I'm legally married. I'm fully in a marriage and this woman is telling me she's pregnant with my baby and that's not possible. That can't be. And so that
Hmm.
feeling of denial. And then there can also be the feeling of, but I want a relationship with the woman that is carrying my baby. And if she does this, then maybe that means it's fully over. It can be so complicated.
It really can. But, I want to talk about another big realization that men find in adoption, and that is that they can and are welcomed to be involved in every aspect of adoption planning. You are not kept out. In fact, speaking from experience, I think adoptions are so much stronger when the father is involved.
And I also want us to acknowledge that if this is a voluntary relinquishment, it's not through the state where the foster system has stepped in and had to
Hmm.
remove a child or anything like that. You have rights to the
Hmm.
child. In private adoption, you may have more rights than you think. And it's important that if you want to parent and are in compliance with the laws that pertain to your adoption, that you can pursue that. But what we're talking about here is wait what moments in adoption.
Hmm.
So we're already in this, okay? So when it comes to being involved in planning adoption, you can help choose the family. You can be part of the hospital plan. meaning you can be there. You
Hmm.
can meet the adoptive parents in person. You can work it out with the birth mom and maybe the adoption agency and the adoptive parents that what role you want to play. Do you want to cut the umbilical cord if possible? Or maybe you want to choose that the adoptive father gets to do that. You can have a say in that. Or maybe you get to be the one that places the baby into their arms for the first time if you're able to be there in person. There, and that's what we mean by be part of the hospital plan. Those actual moments of labor and delivery and the adoptive parents being there to meet the baby for the first time. And you can even take part in post-adoption contact.
Hmm.
It's not just about signing paperwork, it's also about shaping your child's future and the story that will be told of this adoption.
Hmm. And even if you and the child's mother are not together, you can still get to know the parents. Even if you didn't have the opportunity to choose them, you can still have and maintain your own open adoption connection. And we see this all the time.
Hmm.
You can, everything doesn't have to go through the mother. You have the same rights, and that includes the rights in ongoing relationship.
Hmm. Now, this is something that should be discussed prior to the adoption happening. So, hopefully, during the match phase, before the birth of the child, if you have that opportunity to get to know the adoptive parents and leave the door open that, hey, you would like to keep in touch through the years. You might not know exactly what that looks like, but maybe you want them to know, hey, you want to receive updates from time to time as the child grows up, or maybe even schedule some meetups in a public, neutral place. And you'd be responsible for your own travel. And it would only be as long as things are positive between you and the adoptive family, of course. And the adoptive parents are in the driver's seat about, making this possible, but you can voice your expectation and desire that you do want to have ongoing contact or leave it on the table, leave it
Hmm.
open as an option, even if right now you're not in the best place to have that or to do that. You can make it known that you would, like to have that one day, especially so that your child can know who you are,
Hmm.
and that you care.
And that often is a big wait what moment for many birth fathers. Another is the understanding that consenting to adoption isn't giving up. People who choose adoption, they're not giving up on being parents. They're actually providing more for their child and giving more to the child.
Right. And that is, one of the, I guess, negative stereotypes about
Hmm.
adoption that couldn't be
Definitely.
further from the truth. That when a man and woman find themselves expecting a baby or find themselves parenting a child, they can no longer, in their words, do justice to, right? They can't
Hmm.
provide the life they want this child to have right now. And this child is growing up. This baby is inevitably going to be born. It's time is ticking. And there aren't going to be a lot of radical changes in our lives right now to where we're going to suddenly meet the standards that we have for ourselves as parents. And the negative stereotype is that you don't care and that you need to man up. If you choose adoption, you're not a man. You're not taking responsibility for what you've done. You need to take responsibility. And Heather, over the years, we've worked hard to try our best to change this narrative and to really be clear that adoption is not giving up. Adoption is providing for your child. You are providing a life for the child with a mom and a dad and stability. A mom and a dad that already have their career. They already have a home to live in that they're not worried each month about making the rent.
Hmm.
Maybe they even have other children and you can see exactly what kind of parents they have. Their relationship with God is solid. They've been walking in faith and you really admire about them and that inspires you to maybe get closer to God as well, especially after going through something like this. But it's not giving up. It's not a lack of being a man. It's having the wisdom to know that this is a moment where you choose sacrificial love and you provide for your child through
Mhm.
adoption.
And and I love what you just said, Kim, because what that does is it paints a picture of a man who puts his child first. And that's
Mhm,
hard to do. That is hard to do, but it also comes with the understanding and the realization that adoption is not abandoning a child.
mhm,
Instead, it is providing the life that he wants his child to have. And really, when you when you can gain that wisdom, when you can gain that insight, um, it helps reframe adoption. It helps us see it as not a give up, as
mhm,
a give more. And that's really when everything changes in this equation.
mhm. And we've heard dads say things like, I thought I'd always feel like I gave up my baby, but now I see I gave my baby a life I couldn't have provided at that time.
And that's really the knowledge that brings peace. And then if you can have that relationship with the adoptive parents, that brings that acceptance. And
Mhm,
they have the opportunity to express the gratitude and the love they have for you as their child's father.
mhm.
And
And
really that's when the love, not the loss, becomes the focus. It's more people to love and provide for this child.
and sometimes over the years we've heard birth fathers tell us, Heather, that they kind of feel like they do want to keep in touch with the
Mhm.
family, or maybe at first they weren't sure, so they didn't really say they wanted to keep in touch or have what's called open adoption, where you have ongoing communication, not parental rights,
Mhm.
not child support or anything like that, but that you have the ability to keep in touch. And the adoptive parents can ask you questions, you can share stories from your childhood, you can maybe send a gift to the child on special occasions, or even something special to you that you can pass down to the child. We've seen birth fathers do that. But sometimes when birth fathers have said at first they didn't know, or kind of maybe he fell off the face of the planet, maybe he had some other things going on that he needed to get through first, such as, incarceration or other entanglements with other relationships that he needed to get through first, and wanted to get back on his feet before he kind of expressed that he would like to keep in touch. But sometimes what keeps birth fathers from making contact with the adoptive family is a fear that he will be feared, that the adoptive parents will think, what does he want? And they'll be afraid of him, that he's trying to get the child back or be disruptive or anything like that, when it couldn't be further from the truth.
Mhm.
But when people learn the benefits to the child and knowing who you are as the child's birth father means a lot to a
Mhm.
child. It will never stop meaning something
Mhm.
that you were able to keep in touch, and that you made yourself available, and that you made yourself known. Adoptive
Mhm.
parents always ask me, well, we hear a lot about birth moms keeping in touch, but what about the birth father? And they feel something's missing. That, yeah, I can tell my child all about the birth mom, but I can't really tell much about the birth father. What about his medical history? You know, what about his personality and his goals and dreams, and his hobbies and interests and his quirky things about him that I notice maybe my child loves soccer and he grew up playing soccer. Or
Mhm.
maybe my child just starts picking up the guitar out of nowhere, and we're not musical, but he picks up a guitar out of nowhere and can't put it down, only to find out birth father was really musical. You know, these things mean something. Your positive presence and your supportive presence means something. So don't be afraid to make yourself known. Most adoptive parents will understand the benefits to the child, especially in today's modern adoption, where they understand the value of open adoption and the value of a child knowing who their birth parents are.
And I think that connection also helps the healing begin.
Hmm.
I think that when a birth father can see their child happy and thriving, I think it helps many birth fathers find pride again, and pride in their decisions, pride in their support, pride in the choices they made. And they really have the opportunity to know that adoption, it doesn't erase fatherhood. It redefines it. It turns, I can't do this. I can't have another child right now. I can't be a father right now, into, I can see my child happy. I can love my child. I can care about my child. I can still be a part of his or her life. And even if it's not an active part of their life, maybe right now that that relationship isn't as rich or as frequent as you might want or hope in the future. It still helps redefine that, especially knowing that you are accepted by the adoptive parents as an important part of your child's life.
Heather, do you remember there was a birth father that reached out, and he had reached out to the adoptive parents because he had his baseball glove, his baseball mitt that his dad had given him, and he wanted to pass that down to his child that had been placed with an adoptive
Hmm.
family. And so they made a plan to meet up at a park, and he got to bring that baseball mitt and meet his birth child, birth son in person. And they got to take pictures together. And the adoptive parents embraced that opportunity for their
Hmm.
child. And they
Hmm.
embraced him. And they knew that they were mom and dad, and that his role as birth father could never be diminished or erased. And so he
Right.
got to have that moment. And that is something that you can have. Of course, things need to be positive, and if you need help navigating that, you can talk with the adoption agency first if you want to kind of tiptoe in and ask them to reach out to the adoptive parents first. But there are a lot of wait, what moments in your ability to have that connection. So, your role matters, and it's important to, throughout the entire process, ask questions, speak up, stay involved, and don't be afraid to feel everything that comes with this journey.
Processing emotions like guilt or anger in healthy ways will help you move forward toward finding peace. And if you are in relationship with your child and the adoptive parents, it helps your child see a father who chose love, which is so important.
And it's important to reach out if you're not sure what to do. You can message us through letstalkadoption.com. We have a contact page, so you're always welcome to connect and share your story. Even if your adoption, you're a birth father and your adoption took place a long time ago, we'd love to hear from you. And because your experience matters, and what you share can help other men who may encounter a similar situation.
I think
And
really, Kim, to kind of sum things up today, I think adoption is often full of surprises. And what we've found, certainly in our experience, is that those wait what moments often turn into learning opportunities and realizations that bring clarity. Maybe sometimes they even bring confusion at first, but ultimately it it is reflected in hope.
and I think everything about a birth father's role in adoption is a huge wait, what? The fact that
Yes.
you have a voice, a choice, and a place in adoption, and that your story matters, not just in the beginning, but for a lifetime.
Mhm. Thanks so much for joining us today on this episode of Let's Talk Adoption. Please remember to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you would like to share any feedback, drop us a note. Visit letstalkadoption.com. We love to hear from you.
We'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us on Let's Talk Adoption. If you'd like to learn more about today's episode, please visit letstalkadoption.com. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss a conversation. Until next time, take care and God bless.